I'll be honest, I haven't entirely figured out what I'm filming right now. You'll know because there'll be a title on this video. I look tired because I went out and got very sunburnt doing 20,000 steps a day for the step challenge to kind of keep on top of things. And honestly, I'd rather be in bed, but it's 6:30 and that's a little bit too early to go to bed. So we're here and we're sort of thriving. I'm going to talk to you about all the books I read in July, but it's going to be a bit of a different video because I read 8 books in July and 6 of them were one series. I really toned down the reading this month. I really burnt myself out with reading. I think I'd had 2 months of trying to keep up with the number of library books that I had put on hold, and then I did Mixtape-a-thon on top of that, so I read 5 books in a week on top of a full-time job, and like, I did it, I could do it, I enjoyed it, but I just fell out of love with reading for a little bit, so I took a break. I took a little break from posting as well. If I need time off, I'll take time off. So I'm going to start with the 2 books that aren't part of the series because I feel like I might go on a bit about the series that I absolutely devoured this month. I'm going to start with Paper and Blood by Kevin Hearne. This is the 2nd book in the Inconsiderable series and it was incredibly disappointing. I finished it, but the only reason I finished it and it wasn't a DNF was because there's going to be another book and I'm really hoping that book's going to be more interesting. The first book, Inconsiderable, is a proper romp. It follows, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Almach Barish. It's a very Scottish name and it's written one way and pronounced another because it's Scots. And like you can tell me how something's pronounced till you're blue in the face. But if I've read it like 3 times and pronounced it phonetically in my head those 3 times, that's going to be stuck. That's how I pronounce it in my head from then on. Anyway, very funny, irreverent fantasy, urban fantasy about Al, who is a sigilist, a sigil worker, who imbues sigils with magical power that do certain things and have various effects. But his apprentices keep dying and he is cursed, and the first book launches into those 2 mysteries and starts to unpick them a little bit. And it is very good. It involves the Fae, it involves Buck Foy, who named himself with a spoonerism, look that up, who is a pink hobgoblin, and he sticks around and he's great. We love Buck Foy. But yeah, I was expecting the 2nd book to be as good as the first and it wasn't. It took us out of Scotland for one thing, which I didn't love. It heavily focused another character from another series that Kevin Hearne has written, the Iron Druid series, who I didn't know. And although there were some references to their exploits and who they were as a person and why they were important and related, it was still a bit like, I still felt out of the loop. I still felt like I was missing the inside joke. And then a good 2/3 of it were travel sequences where not a lot happened. And I felt a lot of it was quite convenient. No spoilers, but the one bit I did enjoy was the expansion on one of the characters from the first book who is sort of set up as like an NPC and is very much not an NPC in this book. But yeah, that's the only reason I finished it, is because I'm really hoping the 3rd book will go back to Glasgow and be better. But yeah, that wasn't great. Didn't love it. Can't remember what rating I gave it. 3, maybe 2. I feel bad giving books 2 stars. It wasn't that bad, I just wasn't that interested. The other book I read was The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. I read this on my Kindle. This was my like lunchtime reading book at work. This is a very long book and it really suffered from difficult to pronounce names syndrome. It is a... How do I describe this book? Picture Bridgerton, but if it was set in fantasy Venice that isn't really Venice, it's Turkey, with Eastern European influences on naming practices and language, with two warring cultures in one city, and a lot of sort of, I would say, court intrigue, but it's not a court, so maybe social intrigue. It was very good. It was very well thought out. There were lots of characters to love. The names really dragged me down. I'm not normally someone who gets super bogged down in the like complicated naming things, but these people had so many names and none of them are ones that we're used to. So even when they were using titles, it wasn't obvious to me that we were talking about the same person, because in the space of a page they would use like 4 different names and 3 different titles for one character. I'm exaggerating, but you get the point. And that got really confusing, and it's a 600-page book, and I was reading like the really good climax bit at the end where everything's unraveling and you start to understand what's been going on this whole time, and going, who's that person? I don't recognise that name. And have to work out from context clues who it is. And that just pulled me out the story, and it was very frustrating. Aside from that, good heists, good intrigue, very smart, cunning protagonists, lovable people, good queer rep, trans rep. Is there disability rep? I can't think of any disability rep off the top of my head. But it was good. It was entertaining right from the start. The name thing just got a bit confusing. You did need to have a think about what you were reading and sort of make lots of links yourself. It wasn't an easy read, but it was a good one. I think I rated that 4 stars. It didn't blow me away. The name thing really like pulled me out of it. So that was Mask of Mirrors. Then I read the Lady Trent memoirs. All 6 of them. Well, it's 5 of them and a spin-off book. They were all on Scribd. And I am doing a lot of walking, and so I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks. So I listened to all 6 books this month. All of them were fantastic. They were either 4 or 5 stars the whole way through. The premise is we follow Isabella Camhurst, who is a world-renowned dragon naturalist. She's a natural historian that focuses on dragons. The world we're in is basically our world, but all the names of places, months and seasons are different, and dragons exist. And she is obsessed with dragons, and it's set in like the Victorian era, so there's misogyny and sexism that's rampant, and she's having to like fight for her place in society and things like that. And it follows her memoirs, so it's all told from her point of view, with the perspective from her as an older woman. So it acknowledges that there are like multiple adventures in the first book, and then we go on and the rest of the books move on after that. Despite when these were written, because I think the first one came out 2010, 2013, something like that, early 2010s, there was a surprising amount of like good representation in it. Compared to other books, probably not. I think perhaps because I was expecting none, and then I was very surprised when there was some. Lots of great dragons, lots of like hardcore, I'm just going to say autistic joy for dragons, because if she's not autistic, I'll eat my hat. The hyperfixation is too real. No, maybe she's more ADHD. She's described as like a klutz, socially inept and hyperfixated on dragons. So like the traits are there. What conclusions you want to draw is up to you. yeah, there's a different cast of characters in nearly every book. You have your sort of, your main ones that stick around, and between each book there is like a chunk of years, so she ages up quite quickly. There are some serious escapades. There's good use of foreshadowing in the books as well, and these were just really entertaining. Kate Redding narrates the audiobooks as well, so you know that that's going to be good. And then I wasn't expecting much from the spin-off novel. Again, no spoilers, but it lived up to the hype. It's set in a much more recent time period, which shows some good sort of progression through the novels. But yeah, I don't know how much I can say without giving it away, because it's gotten to the point where they all sort of melded into one book. I forget what's a spoiler and what's not. But yeah, those are all the books I read in July. I'm not fussed about the fact that I'm a bit slumpy with reading at the moment. My goal was to read 90 books this year and I'm already on 77. So I will be as slow as I like. That's it. That's the video. Have a good day.